Student organizations say the Ontario government's decision to allow college and university students to opt out of the fees that fund campus groups, student newspapers, and clubs will make the province's post-secondary institutions less transparent. The change to fee payments was announced yesterday alongside other reforms to higher education that included scrapping free tuition for low-income students and imposing an across-the-board tuition fee cut. The Minister of Training, Colleges and Universities, Mary-Lee Fullerton, said some fees, including walk safe programs, health and counseling, athletics and recreation, and academic support, will remain mandatory, though. She said each institution will be tasked with deciding which of these additional fees are deemed essential. Several student groups expressed concerns that colleges and universities would be determining the fate of organizations meant to hold school administrators and the provincial government to account. Canadian Federations of Students Ontario Chair Noor Ali Deeb said what's really scary is that she feels like this is a direct attack on the groups that actually try to hold the government accountable when it comes to student issues. Canadian University Press, a national cooperative owned and operated by student newspapers across the country, said campus newspapers rely heavily on student levies and may not be able to function if students opt out en masse. President of the College Student Alliance, Brittany Grieg, said that without student associations, there is no one to hold institutions accountable for decisions surrounding fee increases, programming, or strategic plans. Off to a great start in the first period with 3 goals, the Greyhounds beat the Battalion 5-1 last night at the North Bay Memorial Gardens. The chairman of the U.S. House Intelligence Committee says that President Donald Trump's decision to reveal House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's trip to Brussels and Afghanistan is completely and utterly irresponsible in every way.
Which is being perceived as sort of more of a political play in the midst of this shutdown. But just now, the president has sort of made his first response, indirectly perhaps, as he announced that he is canceling travel for Speaker Pelosi, who was about to go to Belgium and Afghanistan as part of a congressional delegation. And the president's able to do that because she was going to take military aircraft for this trip, particularly necessary for the stop in Afghanistan. And therefore, as the commander-in-chief, he can scuttle that. In a letter he just sent to Pelosi on Thursday afternoon, he said it was needed because of these ongoing shutdown concerns and invited her back to the bargaining table. It is remarkable that it is the most important and interesting relationship in Washington right now between Nancy Pelosi and President Trump, and yet they're communicating not across a bargaining table, which you'd think would be needed to solve this shutdown, but rather through sort of nasty letters that are dressed up in, of course, the politeness of official Washington, but underneath it really carry some heat. And this response to the president today shows you clearly how bothered he was by Pelosi's attempt to cancel the State of the Union.
As I'm sure you've heard by now, Ottawa has confirmed the death of a Canadian mining executive, Kirk Woodman, in Burkina Faso. Foreign Affairs Minister Chrystia Freeland says Canada is working on the investigation with authorities in the West African country.
It's a terrible crime, and Canada is absolutely committed to working with the authorities in Burkina Faso to bring those responsible to justice. And I think our first thought today is with his family, with his friends who've received some really dreadful news.
The utility responsible for connecting remote First Nations to Ontario's power grid says it has reached a major milestone. Wataynikaneyap Kanayap Power says Mishki Gogamang and Ojibwe Nation of Saugeen have legally joined the project, bringing the total number of communities now who are equal owners to 24. The news comes just under a month after the first of 17 remote First Nations was connected to the power grid. The diesel generating station in Pikangikum First Nation, more than 200 kilometers north of Kenora, was shut down December 20th as the transmission lines to the provincial grid were energized. The Wataynikaneyap Power Transmission Line project launched in 2015 with a plan to connect the remote communities to the grid over an 1,800-kilometer transmission line. The full project is expected to be completed by 2023 and will shift the communities from dependence on diesel fuel for power to the provincial electricity grid.